I was a guidance counselor for 12 years, and I want to be very clear about something before anything else. I believed I was helping people. That's not something I say defensively. It's a fact about my mindset at the time. I didn't wake up intending harm. I woke up intending order, stability, predictable outcomes. Those things felt like kindness when you're responsible for hundreds of children and only have the resources to meaningfully support a few. The school was a public middle school in a growing district, built during one of those funding booms where everything looks modern for about 5 years before it starts to peel. Long hallways, too many students, classrooms filled past capacity, teachers exhausted by October. My office was near the main administration wing, small, windowless, neutral colors chosen to be calming. Two chairs across from my desk, one slightly angled so students couldn't sit too comfortably. Two chairs across from my desk, one slightly angled so students couldn't sit too comfortably. That wasn't intentional on my part, but once I noticed it, I didn't change it. Students came to me for scheduling issues, behavioral concerns, emotional check-ins. Officially. Unofficially, I was there to manage risk. Students who disrupted class, students who didn't respond well to authority, students who made teachers uneasy in ways that couldn't be quantified. Those students were always described the same way. Bright, but creative, but smart kid just doesn't apply himself. That but was where I worked. The district had a program called Adaptive Pathways. That was the name on the forms. Internally, we called it redirection. It allowed counselors to recommend alternative tracks for students who might struggle in traditional academic environments. Once a student entered Adaptive Pathways, expectations changed. Coursework shifted. Teachers changed. Peer groups changed. Outcomes changed. I told myself it was mercy. The first time I redirected a student, his name was Lucas Mayer. 6th grade, quiet, observant, too observant. He didn't cause trouble, but teachers reported that he asked inappropriate questions about why certain rules existed, why punishment was uneven, why some kids were labeled early and never escaped it. I met him on a Tuesday afternoon at 1:15 p.m. I remember because he apologized for being late, even though he wasn't. He sat upright, hands folded, listening closely. That kind of attention makes adults nervous. I asked about his home life. Normal, stable. I asked about his grades. High. I asked about his questions in class. They tell me not to ask those anymore, he said. I asked how that made him feel. He shrugged. Like I'm already in trouble for something I haven't done. That sentence stayed with me. I documented the meeting as student displays difficulty with authority boundaries. That language mattered. The next step was a meeting with his parents. I framed it carefully, emphasized opportunity, support, a learning environment better suited to his needs. They hesitated. I showed them data, charts, projected outcomes, graduation rates. They trusted me. Lucas was redirected. He didn't cry. That worried me more than if he had. He nodded, accepted the new schedule, and asked if it was permanent. Nothing is permanent, I said. That was a lie. Once students entered Adaptive Pathways, very few returned. Over the years, I redirected dozens more. Students with anger issues, students with anxiety, students who didn't know how to sit still in rooms that demanded stillness as a form of obedience. I didn't think of it as punishment. I thought of it as sorting. The problem was that patterns emerged. Students from certain neighborhoods were redirected more often. Students whose parents worked multiple jobs. Students who didn't know how to speak the right kind of polite when they were scared. I noticed. I documented. And then I adjusted my language so the documentation justified itself. Student demonstrates limited adaptability to traditional structure. Student benefits from reduced academic pressure. Student displays oppositional tendencies when questioned. Those phrases closed doors quietly. Lucas came back to my office 2 years later. 8th grade. Taller. Quieter. His eyes didn't move as much. He sat in the chair like it didn't matter how he positioned himself. I don't think I belong where you put me, he said. I asked why. They don't expect anything from us, he said. So we stop expecting it too. That wasn't something I was trained to respond to. I told him we could revisit placement in high school. Another lie. Lucas stopped coming to school regularly after that. When he did show up, teachers described him as disengaged, unmotivated, at risk. Those words are sticky. Once they touch a student, they don't come off. He dropped out at 16. I found out years later through a colleague who'd seen his name in a local arrest report. Minor charges, nothing violent, just enough to confirm the narrative. That's the part that makes systems feel vindicated. Years after I retired, the district launched a review of adaptive pathways. They called it an equity audit. They brought in consultants. They used words like harmful outcomes and self-fulfilling trajectories. I wasn't named. I was never investigated. I followed every guideline, every policy, every best practice of the time. Sometimes, though, I think about that chair in my office, the way students sat in it, already unsure of themselves, waiting for an adult to tell them what kind of future they deserved. I think about how many times I confused manageability with care, how often I mistook discomfort for danger, how easily guidance becomes control when you stop listening to what people are actually saying. I believed I was helping. That's the most frightening part.